Hey, everybody, it's Winter here with the Shift Spotlight. And today we are here with Gary Massey, who is a CPA in Atlanta, Georgia. And he can be found at Massey and Company CPA.com. That's Massey and company spelled out CPA.com. So welcome, Gary, to the show. We're so grateful to have you here today.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here, especially with a fellow Atlanta person.
I know with an A-town person, as we like to say here. So, at a high level, we know what CPAs do, so we don't need an explanation there. But why don't we talk about specifically what your company does?
Sure. So our firm is what I like to say, a boutique CPA firm focused on small businesses and small business owners. We do tax returns, we do tax planning, we do tax representation, which means solving IRS or state tax problems. And we also do bookkeeping and accounting for small businesses.
Gotcha. Okay. And so how does that stack up with competitors? Do competitors do things differently, or do they focus on different types of businesses? How do you stand out in a world of, CPAs?
That's a great question. So there are some firms that only deal with very large accounting firms. That is not us. So we are not Ernst & Young dealing with very, very large companies. Most of the companies that we deal with are under $2 million in sales.
Gotcha.
We don't have very many of that for the most
All right.
part. Under that. And the other thing that makes us a little unusual is the work we do with representation. Most accountants and most attorneys do not do that. So we are unique in that regard.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, I'm curious what your thoughts are, because I had a mentor teach me a long time ago that it's not what you make, it's what you keep in taxes, right? So I buy these books every single year. And I read these books, I don't read them cover to cover or anything like that, but, I'll look at, home office deduction, then I'll flip and I'll see, what the requirements would be, or, corporate trips and what you need to do and the documentation you need to have. And then I have all of that. And then I send it to my CPA and he's like, look, I don't need it. You keep it for you. But what do you think about these Barbara Weltman books? Because I personally, because I'm a CEO for a small business, for me, these are easy to read. And, I think it's not, you can't leave it up to your CPA to do everything anymore, right? You got to have a hand in what's going on.
I think that's terrific. But there are very few people who actually do that. If you can do it, if you have the discipline to actually read that and think about that, that's wonderful.
Okay.
What I always say, some people like to bake their own bread, and some people buy a loaf of bread at Kroger's. So whatever they want, it depends what type of person you are. If you're a do-it-yourself, or if you are or someone who likes to have it done for you. But what I will mention is that you can really do that pretty easily for an individual. But when it comes to a corporate entity, it becomes much harder.
Right.
Because the tax preparation software that's available on the market doesn't really do entities, businesses, companies, corporate partnership returns. So for that, you really need something.
Yeah, I definitely don't. Yeah, for sure. I don't do my own returns. I just know what is deductible and not, right? So, okay. Well, this question I'm sort of interested in, because I'm getting married in 4 days. In 4 days. So what are the tax tips that you have for people getting married?
Well, so one of the obvious things that everybody talks about is that you can file what's called married filing jointly, which means that the income of you and your spouse will be joined together. And almost always that's a good thing. Okay. It means that you're going to pay less taxes, almost always. In very rare cases that I've hardly ever seen, it can be the other way, but almost always you're going to pay less taxes. However, the one thing that I always tell people is that a joint tax return means joint liability. You are jointly liable. That means if God forbid someone gets divorced, either party is going to be liable. So that's called joint liability. Both spouses sign on the tax return, and they're both liable. So if there's ever any kind of issue later on. Issues could be a divorce, or if there are any legal issues, like if you marry a mobster or something like that, and you
A
become liable
DA,
for that.
a DA or somebody that that the
You become
criminals go
liable.
after.
So that's joint. It's called joint liability, and that's very, very important. And many people don't realize that. And then if things ever go sour, or there's some kind of God forbid, criminal activities, then everybody becomes brought into it. So it's
Gotcha.
just something to keep in mind. For
Gotcha.
example, I just had a call earlier, I think it was earlier today, about what's called innocent spouse relief.
Mm.
That's what this talks about. There are certain cases where the spouse can be held exempt from what the other spouse did. That's called innocent spouse. And you can get that tax relief in very restricted circumstances, something
Gotcha.
that you have to fight for.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, since most of our audience are CEOs and business owners, what would the tips be that you would give a business owner to stay out of tax trouble?
Wow. Okay. Well, staying out of tax trouble is the most important thing that we do for our tax clients, that and tax planning. So one of the most obvious things to do, I think, is to keep a good set of accounting records. And I say that, but many people do not.
Mm-hmm.
Many people have messy books, messy accounting records, and that can make things so difficult and painful when it becomes tax season.
Gotcha.
Because people are not going to remember what they did 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 months ago, what that expense was. And I see it all the time. So you have to keep a good set of accounting records. Personally, at my firm, we use QuickBooks Online for almost all of our clients. And that works just fine. It's not the easiest tool to use, but it works fine, and it's very, very common. So I would do that. And then with that, it's important that businesses do what's called reconciling the books once a month. And reconciling, for those who remember back in the old days when we had to reconcile checkbooks, I don't know if you're
I still do it. I still do it. I still do it. I still reconcile. And I have a couple companies. I still reconcile my company checkbooks.
So many people do not do that anymore. It's like an old-fashioned art. But reconciling means making sure that the numbers that are in your books tie to the bank.
Yep.
And that's how you know that the books are clean and there are no errors in there. So if you do that once a month for all of your accounts, it will save you so much time and effort when it comes to tax season. And you can pretty much become what I call audit proof, which means that you have the backup as long as you have receipts. So that's one thing we have to mention. Keep receipts. You can keep them electronically on a cloud storage, or copies if you don't mind a lot of paper. But keep receipts and reconcile the bank account, and then you'll be pretty much audit proof.
Right.
Another thing I would, for those who have employees, don't do your own payroll. Hire a payroll company.
Right.
I believe in that very, very strongly. Payroll is difficult, and the risks of getting in trouble with payroll are very significant. Another thing that I would mention that I see all the time is people who get letters from the government, either the IRS or from the State Department of Revenue or any kind of taxing authorities, and they get nervous and they don't open the letters and they put it into a drawer. And I see this every single week. It's very, very common. And if you do that, if you put it into a drawer, I guarantee you will get in tax trouble. So open the mail, read it and see what it says, and then either call your CPA, or you can call me or your local CPA, whoever you'd like, and they will help you straighten it out, sort through the mess, and deal with it promptly. If you don't do that, you will get in trouble.
Gotcha. Okay. And so you've got a staff that works with you. How many employees do you have?
We have 12.
12. Okay. 12. So when you first started your business, how many employees did you start with? Were you kind of doing it on your own, or were you the bookkeeper and the marketer and the salesperson, and were you all of the people, or did you come kind of with a staff right from the beginning?
No, it was only me.
Yeah.
It was me working out of my home office, and and it slowly grew. I think one of the first people who I took on was an admin, and
Hmm.
that was a very, very important position. The admin helps me do billing to our clients and writes engagement letters and those kind of things. That's very, very important. And then gradually, I started to bring in additional helpers. Some help with doing tax returns, some help with doing QuickBooks bookkeeping and accounting, and then various levels of tax return skills.
Gotcha. So, you've been doing this for a really long time now. What's been the hardest part of running your own business? Because we're talking to CEOs, they've all got their own issues, but what we've kind of seen is there's some commonalities and some similarities. But how people deal with these issues kind of helps turn things around for them. So, what were some of the common problems you had in the beginning?
I'll tell you what the hardest problem that I have found in having a business, and that's pricing.
Mm,
Knowing how much to price your products and services. That is
hmm
a continual challenge. Every
hmm
day, that is a challenge, trying to figure it out, because you want to be fair. You want to be fair to your clients. You want to be fair to your staff who are getting compensated. And you don't want to be pricing it too low so that you're not making money. And you don't want it too high so that the clients walk away. Now, that is a continual challenge. That has been, I would say, that's the hardest part of running a business, in my estimation.
Interesting. That's interesting. I had a situation where I had to change CPAs a few years back. And when I first started working with this new firm, it's always painful when you have to make a change. Nobody likes change. When I first started working with them, you've got that getting through things. Then I found out that they like kind of charge per email, per communication, per whatever. And I wasn't used to that. I didn't have that before. And so what I found though was that he ended up saving me a ton of money on my taxes. And I don't mind paying for something as long as the value is there, right? Because it's like I never had to pay for time before with the CPA, but all of a sudden here I am. But then he found this little way to save me money. So, how do you continually deliver value to your clients so that the pricing isn't as much of an issue?
Well, so there's a whole stream of thought in the accounting profession, and maybe lawyers do this and other professionals. But there's a thing called value billing, where
Mm-hmm.
you bill according to what it's worth. And the challenge with value billing is everybody values things differently. Like if
Mm-hmm.
you look at a tax return, some people want their tax returns fast,
Mm-hmm.
and some people don't care if it's fast, or some people want to meet with the partner, and some people wouldn't care about that. Some people are happy with doing Zoom calls, and some people want face to face. Everybody wants something different. So value is hard to determine.
Mm-hmm.
But you're
Mm-hmm.
right. You are right. One of the values that we as CPAs bring to the table is tax planning, which are the efforts that we do to bring taxes down.
Right.
And tax return by itself is looking backward. It's what's
Mm-hmm.
happened in the prior year. Tax planning is looking forward. So both of them require skill. Tax planning requires even more skill and more creativity, because there are things that you can do that are creative.
Right.
But all of them bring value. And you're right that as a business owner of any kind, you have to tell your client, communicate to your client what you did for them, what that value is. If you keep it a secret, they're not going to know. So you
Right.
have to let them know. And there are different ways of doing it. Some people send like progress updates, or excuse me, or video updates. There's this thing called Loom now, Loom, where people
Oh
record
yeah.
these little videos. Those are super cool. There are
I could
lots of
not live
ways that you
without
can do it,
them.
but you're right. But you have to communicate to people what it is that you're bringing to them. And that helps a lot. From my perspective, what's very difficult as far as communicating value, is bookkeeping. People
Mm-hmm.
tend not to appreciate bookkeeping. They do appreciate taxes because they don't want to get in trouble. but bookkeeping, people don't value all that much. It's not a super high value product
Yeah.
or service. So
Yeah.
that's harder. So how do you communicate the value of good bookkeeping?
Let
The
them
way
do
that
the
I would do
bookkeeping
that,
for a
and
few days and see how quickly they'll change their mind. Because I do my own bookkeeping because I know what's a business expense, what's a supply. You know, if you buy 5 things on Amazon, that's where I took it over. Was my CPA was classifying all this stuff from Amazon as business gifts, which you can only deduct $25 out of a business gift. And like some of those were supplies. That's 100% deductible. Some of those were client retention, which is a marketing expense, also 100% deductible. So when I realized, you know, I wasn't getting the full deduction, I took it back over. So I say to all those people who don't value bookkeeping, take it over yourself and then see how much you value it, because it is time consuming for me. But I go back to, it's not what you make, it's what you keep. And if I know that things are being classified right, then I'm going to save more than like maybe, you know, somebody who didn't know exactly what I bought when I bought it.
yes. So the chief reason for doing bookkeeping or accounting is taxes, so that you can do a tax return. That's what you're talking about. There are a few other reasons which can be important in certain circumstances. If you ever sell your business and you have to have financial statements, then you need good bookkeeping. If you ever
Right.
want to borrow money and you have to go to a bank and provide financial statements, then you need bookkeeping. So those things do come up from time to time.
Gotcha. So we're kind of in this weird, you know, uncertain environment right now. What would you say the top 3 things in the economy, in the world, you know, in your business line that are impacting your business right now?
Well, I'll mention a couple things which come to mind. So what's so unique today is because of the internet, that has enabled people to start their own home businesses of all different kinds. We can now work at home out of our home office. Is something that 15 or 20 years ago was unthinkable. And of course, when you work at home, you don't have the same overhead. It's just so much. And so that has opened up opportunities for so many people. And when you have your own business of almost any kind, then you can do really significant tax planning. If you're an employee of a company, if you get a W-2 at the end of every year, there's some tax planning you can do, but not a ton. When you have your own business, you can really save significant taxes in various ways, and we can talk about that. But this reality that we're living in today with the internet, it has made all of that possible. So I think that's very, very profound and profoundly exciting that we can do that. I think it's had a tremendous impact upon the opportunities of young people, retirees, all kinds of people who start thinking about having a side gig, whether it's driving Uber or so many other things, walking a dog and getting paid for it, or being an accountant, or so many other things that become available to us because of that. So that to me is profoundly important and significant and very exciting. And it brings me a lot of business because all of these people need accountants. But
Right.
even more importantly, it's created so much opportunity. On the other side, a little bit more of a negative reality that I've noticed is that the government is becoming more and more aggressive. I've seen an uptick in the number of clients who are being audited.
Yeah.
People come to me that, in fact, most of them had their returns done by other accountants, but for whatever reason, they are being audited, and they come to us and ask us to solve the problem. And we've recently closed several audits with very, very good results, but it is painful and expensive. So as the government's become more and more aggressive, then this kind of work becomes more and more significant. So that's with the IRS. And an area that is even more, where the government is more aggressive, relates to sales taxes, state sales taxes. They're super aggressive. If you're ever in a sales tax audit, that could be an amazingly painful experience. So those are 2 things that I've noticed, 2 changes that I've noticed going on that impact what I do.
Gotcha. Okay. Where do you see yourself investing resources in your company for 2024?
Well, there are two areas that I have found to be the most significant, the most impactful in my own business. One is search engine optimization, SEO.
Mm-hmm.
And that has been very, very powerful for me. That's how people find us. It's
Mm-hmm.
not, for the most part, it's not through sending out letters or billboards or other kinds of advertisement, other kinds of marketing. It's search engine optimization. And I believe that that's the biggest, that's the most significant thing that I can invest in that will
Mm-hmm.
bring the greatest return. The other thing which brings a lot of return is very specific types of networking that lead to referrals.
Mm-hmm.
So developing certain kinds of referral partnerships, referral arrangements, and basically getting to know people, getting out of the office and getting to know certain kinds of people, that has been also very, very impactful. So I'd say SEO is number one, and then this kind of networking and referral arrangements would be number two. So that's where I would invest money in. And then as the business grows, fortunately, most of my team works remote. So I don't have to worry about paying for real estate. I'm happy for that. And the remote business arrangements have worked out very, very well for us. So we will gradually bring on staff, but the staff can be anywhere. They can work out of their homes and they can be located throughout the world. So
Right.
it becomes very easy.
Yeah. When you say networking groups, like what networking groups do you typically find to be the most useful?
So I've done lots of different networking groups. I've done BNI and others, and all of them are very good. The most important thing at those groups is that you meet the right kind of people who are going to send you business. So it's not so much the group, but it's the kind of people who you're going to meet at that group. Someone who has the opportunity or is in a position to send you referral opportunities. And that's, of course, different for every person. For me, being a CPA, we get a lot of business from financial planners. So developing a relationship with a financial planner is very significant. So why is that? Someone goes to a financial planner and they're looking to, figure out where to invest. And if they ask questions, well, do you have a business? Do you have an accountant? Have you gotten into any kind of tax problems? Those are all things which the financial planner is not going to deal with themselves, but they would refer it to us. And I, in turn, don't do financial planning. So if someone needs you call it a 401k or a IRA or a SEP, which is a self-employed pension plan, I think.
Yep.
This is not my expertise, but I can refer it out to a planner. So I would refer that, and they refer to me, and that's the best way to develop business opportunities, because it helps me, it helps the other person, and helps the client who's getting the very best and most diverse services possible.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, cool. All right. And wrapping this up, if you could go back to the you that started this business a long time ago and tell your younger self something that could benefit another CEO or entrepreneur out there, what would you tell your younger self?
Well, the most important thing I would say is that have confidence in your ability and you can do it. One of the most important skills, probably the most important skill, is selling, marketing and selling. Because no matter how good you are, if you don't have any clients or customers, then you can't do a business. So all it takes is to be friendly, to tell a good and truthful story, and to speak in a heartfelt and honest way. And you can do it. Go out and meet people, tell them what your story is, and you will get clients. I think that's the most important thing.
And be authentic in your marketing. I think that when people market and they're trying to be something they're not, or they're trying to be too cutesy or, whatever, and they're not being honest about, who they need to attract or who they want to attract, they end up attracting all the wrong clients. And then they go, well, why am I even in this business at all? So I think you have to be authentic to who you really are and who you want to attract.
That's right. I totally agree with that.
Okay, so tell our listeners how they can get a hold of you one more time.
Sure. So the website is Massey and Company CPA.com. My email is gary.massey@masseyandcompanycpa.com. And if you go to the website, you'll see my telephone number, and you are welcome to reach out to me, and I will do my very best to assist. We also have a blog post, blogs, where I put out information that I think is significant and interesting, particularly for small business owners, and you're welcome to read that. And if you ever have a question, best is to reach out to me by email, and I will be delighted to be of assistance.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We really appreciate you coming on today.
Great to be here.
Thank you.